Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in episode number 158 of this fabulous book. Muhammad Sal'lal'laa'hu wasallam is life based on the earliest sources by Martin Lings. And we are now at the Battle of Uhud itself, where we saw that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has now gathered at the mountain of Uhud, and the Quraysh are already there waiting for him. And before we go into the book itself to read further, I just want to elaborate the map itself. This map is very important, and we're going to refer to it several times in this discussion. So let's just look at the map itself so we can understand the map and get a layout of what is exactly going on, right? So it's not a complicated map. It's fairly straightforward, and I will go through it in simple detail. Right, so once again, remember that Makkah is here at the bottom, Medina is to the north, and north of Medina is Uhud, because the only weak spot in Medina is protected from the south. You cannot enter Medina from the south. You cannot enter Medina from the east or west because of volcanic tracks. You can only enter Medina from the north. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam found a magnificent spot. Here's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam found a spot. This is a mountain of Uhud. Okay, let me just first explain what's going on. This is a mountain of Uhud, right? The green refers to the Muslim army, so that's a green, and this pinkish purple color, that refers to the Quraysh, right? So we got the layout. And this little hillock here refers to the archers. So the archers were stationed over here. So let's go very slowly through this map, and then until both you and I understand it very clearly, and I will refer to it on a regular basis so that we understand what is going on with regard to the army itself and the Battle of Uhud, right? So let's take it step by step. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam first got one of these Sahabi, a person who was familiar with the layout of the mountain of Uhud, of the terrain, and he found a magnificent place, and this is known as the pincer maneuver. He found himself a place in a little nook in the mountain itself. It was on a slope, high above the slope. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like at the top of a slope. So he could see the entire battlefield from where he was, right? So he had a magnificent viewpoint. In addition to that, Medina is over here. Medina is over here, and Makkah is over here. So this is known as the pincer maneuver. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could see exactly what the Quraysh were doing. He had a vantage point to see what the Quraysh were doing. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had an exact eye point on what's happening in Medina. In case these people want to go directly to Medina, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could attack them, right? So he had a magnificent position known as the pincer maneuver. So the way he set his the troops, he had 3 columns. He gave one flag to the Ansar, which are the Aus, that's the army of the Aus. Then the other was, in the middle of them was the Muhajirin, and the third flag he gave it to the Khazraj. Remember, the Medina is made out of the Aus and the Khazraj, which are known together as the helpers or the Ansar. And the people from Makkah are known as the Muhajirin. M stands for the migrants. They are known as the Muhajirins. So he gave one flag to the people from Makkah, at least from the Muslims, I'm referring to the Muslims from Makkah, right? One flag was given to them, known as the Muhajirin, and the other 2 flags, one was given to the Aus, one was given to Khazraj. So now this entire area is already saved, right? You can see this magnificent spot. The Quraysh cannot enter here. The only weak spot is this gap here. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew that if this army comes this way around, then they're going to attack the Muslim army from the back, right? Are we clear on that? So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam position, there was a narrow gap here, so his army is facing the Quraysh army. If by chance they come around here, this is the only weak spot. So for that, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, on this hill, he put 50 archers. He told them, you don't move from the spot. You must cover this opening here, this gap here. Make sure that, because the soldiers won't be able to come here. The people won't be able to walk with their feet here. It's too far. The only ones who can come here are the horses, the cavalry. The soldiers are on the horses, and it's Khalid bin Walid and his cousin Ikrama. So Khalid bin Walid was in charge of 100 horses, and Ikrama was in charge of 100 horses. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam knew that the only danger posed by the entire army were the soldiers on the horses known as the cavalry, because they're the only ones who can cover because this is a huge distance. You cannot go all the way around here to come to this distance. You can only do it on a horse. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam put the 50 archers there with very clear instructions. You don't move from that spot. If you see us winning the battle, you don't move. If you see us losing the battle, you don't move. If you see the vultures eating us, you don't move. If you see us collecting the booty, you don't move. So the instructions were very clear, right? So I'll be clear on this. So we know now the layout of the Muslim army. We'll come to the Quraysh army just now. So first, just let's focus on the Muslim army. Very beautiful. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam got a magnificent pincer maneuver. He's got the layout of the whole area. He can see the Meccan army in front of him. He can see Medina from there. He can see the 50 archers. He said, okay, I've got that part. He said, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, right, okay, I've got my army here. I've got 3 standard bearers. 1 flag for the Aus, 1 for the Khadraj, 1 for the Muhajirin. I've got this part covered, no problem. Then he said, okay, the weakness, I've got that covered. That means Khalid bin Walid can't move. I've got him covered. I've got the 50 archers there. And they're my companions. They're going to listen to what I say. They won't break the command. They've got that covered. So Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tied his horse. Then he put his trust in Allah. That means he did everything possible. He even put a double coat of armor. He said, I'm going to take every single precaution. Because now we are only 700 against 3,000. But with conviction, with earnestness, we're going to win this battle. He did everything perfectly. And had everyone followed his commands exactly, then we wouldn't have seen the problem that we saw, right? But we'll come to that. Now let's look at the Quraysh army. The Quraysh army, the main flank of the army, the middle part of the Quraysh army was led by Abu Sufyan. Remember Abu Sufyan, the one in the Battle of Badr? He's one of the chiefs. He was coming with 1,000 very wealthy caravans, and he started the whole problem with Badr. He sent Damdam, that performer who started, cut the nose of the camel, made a big scene in Mecca, and then the Abu Jahl came with the army, and Allah made it like that. So then the 15 biggest chiefs of the Quraysh pagans should be killed in that battle of Badr. Right. So Abu Sufyan now is the de facto chief of Makkah. So now he is leading the army. So Abu Sufyan is in charge. So basically, it is only these 3 which is comprised. This is 3,000. 1,000. But this comprises only 250, 250, 250, because now the Muslims are only 700. So basically, each green arrow represents 250 people. 250, 250. This represents 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. That means for every 1 Muslim, there are 4 of these, or 1 against 3. There's 1 against 4. It's quarter, 250 versus 1,000. 250 versus 1,000. 250 versus 1,000. The Muslims were only a quarter, 1 against 4, right? Compared to the army of the Quraysh. Then on this side here is Khalid bin Walid with 100 of his horses, the cavalry. And this side here is Ikrama with his 100 horses. So we got 2 flanks. 100 cavalry with horses here, 100 cavalry with Khalid bin Walid, and now the battle is going to begin. The battle is going to begin with the Muslim infantry and the Abu Sufyan infantry. So 700 against 3,000. Listen very carefully. 700 of the Muslims against 3,000 of the enemy. The 700 of the Muslims, they beat them. These people started running away. They started running away. Khalid bin Walid could not do nothing, and Ikrama could not do nothing because of these archers. They said, we are jammed. What do? We can't do nothing. We can't move an inch. We can't move an inch. The Muslims won the battle. But we know that towards the end, something happened, right? So the whole purpose of today's episode is just to get the layout of the land, to understand the layout of the Battle of Uhud and why the Prophet ﷺ took magnificent steps. Imagine he did not go to any military school. He did not have training as a commander of war. He did not have training in strategy. He never used to play chess games to find out, okay, let's have strategic maneuvers. But he was thinking 10 steps ahead at the time. He was like a master chess player who thinks 10 and 20 steps ahead. He did all his plans. He did all his maneuvers. He did everything perfectly. All that he wanted was the loyalty of his troops. But the magnificent thing about this leader, subhanAllah, is that even when the archers made a mistake and they left their positions and the Muslims then suffered a setback, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam forgave them. Look at that. And the Quran said, had you not been gentle with them, they would have run away from you. Right? So we will go into it in detail as to the exact details of the Battle of Uhud. But just to summarize, maybe let me just finish the story, is to say that initially the Muslims won. So they routed this 3,000 ran away. Imagine 3,000. Hamza was a part of them, hitting left and right. Sa'd bin Waqqas with his arrows, and so many other magnificent warriors. Then when these 3,000 started running away, They were running towards Mecca. Mecca is in this direction. This is the Quraysh camp, right? They started running towards the Quraysh camp. The Muslims started chasing them. And as these ran away, they left their armor. You must remember, they came with magnificent, beautiful weapons of war, spears, lances, their clothes, everything. Many of them started dying. They were killed in the battle. So the Muslims started picking up. They ran away. They went behind the camp here. So the battlefield was empty. So these Muslims then started collecting all the booty. The ones who are standing here, they say, the war is over. It was like in Badr. We hit them. We hit them for a song. We knocked them. We hit them out of the baseball, out of the park. But they forgot the words of Nabi Sallallahu. And the leader amongst them, I forget his name, and he told the others, please don't do this. Nabi Sallallahu said, don't, we must not move. He said, nah, man, please, we won the battle. What you talking about? You old people, you don't know what you're talking about. And 40 of them ran onto the battlefield. Khalid bin Walid is watching. He's watching. And because he's watching the entire battlefield, he's looking for a weak spot. He's continuously watching. That's what makes him a superb leader, a magnificent general of the army. And when he saw those 40 archers coming down, running towards there to collect the booty, he gave the signal. Wow. His 200 cavalry came galloping here. He came behind the Muslim army. They started attacking while they're collecting the booty. So now they're attacking them from behind. The Muslims got a shock of their life. They turned around to see what's going on. Now there's noise and uproar, and these people who ran away to the camp, they started running back into the battlefield. So now the Muslims were being attacked from behind and from the front, and it was a disaster. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was injured. He then had to climb up the mountain Uhud, but we'll get to it. But this is just basically just trying to understand. I've tried to make the map as simple as possible. Just remember, this is a magnificent space that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had at the top of the slope. He had the entire vantage point of the entire battlefield. He gave his instructions very clearly. Had those instructions been followed to the T, that means there was nothing wrong with his planning, nothing wrong with his intelligence, nothing wrong with his strategic maneuver. SubhanAllah. Stay well, look after yourself. And in the next episode, we'll now go into the book itself, line by line, as to see exactly what happened in the battle of Uhud. It is quite a long chapter, so we'll have to do it over 2 or 3 episodes, inshallah. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah.